More on all of that. We can cross now to Sydney and France 24's Rochelle Harrison-Pless. Hi, Rochelle. Now, this ban, it's not just affecting news outlets, right? It's affecting emergency government provided information. What is going on? Can you give us more background to this clash between Facebook and the authorities?
Well, Facebook has unfriended Australia, with Australian users waking up on Thursday morning to a very different Facebook news feed after the social network blocked them from seeing or posting news. The blackout is in response to the federal government's proposed media bargaining code, which will force tech titans to pay local news outlets for their content. But as you mentioned, Facebook's sudden news ban has not only affected media organisations, it's also removed the Facebook pages of wildlife charities, trade unions, the Weather Bureau, and crucially, emergency and health services in the midst of a pandemic. And it all comes at a time when health misinformation is rife on social media. It's also sparked major concerns on the eve of a COVID-19 vaccine rollout here in Australia, with the first jab set to be administered on Monday. Facebook's unfriending of Australia is in stark contrast to the approach taken by Google, another tech titan that will be impacted by this contentious media bargaining code. While Google threatened to shut down its search engine in Australia, since last week it's actually cut multi-million-dollar deals with several of the country's biggest media companies.
OK, and I can imagine, Rochelle, that the reactions have been ranging from frustration to fury, because this is affecting emergency services information, and people rely so much, of course, on Facebook. Give us a sense of the reactions from officials in Australia, and not just officials.
Yes, You're absolutely right. It's pretty safe to say that there's been outcry and uproar across the board, with many calling the move dangerous and irresponsible, especially in the midst of a global pandemic, when people need and rely on credible and trusted information more than ever. Again, this is a platform that has often allowed conspiracy theories and fake news to flourish, and it's now blocked access to credible information that's produced by trusted, reliable news sources and trusted journalists. Australian authorities said they were absolutely blindsided by the move, with Prime Minister Scott Morrison slamming Facebook as arrogant. He actually made a statement, ironically, on Facebook. He also said that Australia would not be intimidated by big tech. Meanwhile, the Australian Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, called the move wrong and heavy-handed, but he also confirmed that he'd spoken to Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg earlier this Thursday, and that they'd had a constructive discussion, and that they'd agreed to try to find a pathway forward. Yet Australia says it is standing firm. The government has reiterated that it remains absolutely committed to pushing through and legislating this media bargaining code.
OK, all eyes on that dispute in terms of how Facebook, I guess, interacts with authorities elsewhere as well. Thanks for that, Rochelle Harrison-Pless in Sydney.